Hi, Virgo. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for January of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco, California.
Let's dig into your horoscope for January, Virgo. I want to start with two of our favorite asteroid goddesses, Juno and Ceres. Now, at the beginning of the month, Juno is finishing out Pisces, but she's been here for so long that I've been talking about it in the horoscope since July. And so I'm not going to mention any more about that. She's very quickly going to be moving on into Aries, which is your 8th house. And right there she is. Now, this is an intimate territory. This is a territory to do with all kinds of things around sharing, meaning sharing yourself emotionally with a partner, or perhaps in a healing context like therapy, sharing your bodies as in sexuality, and sharing financially, which does encompass both marital partnership, marital and business partnership finances, but also things like taxes and insurance and investments. So Juno entering into this house and bringing her own characteristic partnership themes does suggest that this is a time when you might find these sorts of things coming up in your marriage. If you are married or partnered, you might have to have some conversations about the finances that you share, and this is a good time to have them. And if you're in a business partnership, that equally applies. This transit could be good for your sex life and bringing the intimacy quotient up in general, perhaps for having some intimate conversations and some difficult conversations that you need to have with your partner. Just be sure to go in a way that's gentle and compassionate and warm. But this is a really good time for that stuff. Next thing I want to tell you about is Ceres, which is over here in Libra in your 2nd house all month. Ceres is presently slowing down and getting ready to turn retrograde, which could bring up a lot of financial issues for all of us really, but for you in particular, Virgo. Now, that's because Ceres is an asteroid goddess to do with the things that connect us to the physical world, our bodies, the food that we eat, and the money that we earn and save and spend and manage, which you're going to be doing a lot of during Ceres' rather lengthy sojourn in your 2nd house, because this is Ceres' own house. So this is a house that also has to do with your own finances, not the finances that you share with a partner. That's the 8th house, but the 2nd house is your own money. Now, Ceres being in this house is actually a great thing because she's so comfortable here, and she would really like you to better organize your money and to bring your income level up to what you're worth, perhaps, if this is a good time to do that. And yet she is about to go retrograde. So that's going to happen early next month, February, but Ceres will begin to slow down as January finishes. And so it's never too soon to start getting your finances into better shape, getting your eating into better shape, and beginning new practices to take better care of your physical body for health and longevity. And Ceres is going to bring a lot of your attention to those things over the next couple of months. And so to avoid being caught short during the late winter and early spring, the time is now to start looking at that stuff. Hey, Julia, what's the news about Venus, Mercury, and Mars for the Virgos of the world?
Oh yeah, a lot of big news, Virgo. I'll start with Venus. She's the planet of love, beauty, and pleasure, and she's going to cross 3 different houses this month. So she's only spending January 1st in your 5th house. That's the house of your children. It represents fun, games, and creativity. And her transit in the 5th mainly took place in last month. But it's a wonderful time for getting along with your children if you have any. Since this transit takes place on January 1st, you probably had a great New Year's Eve team going out and just enjoying maybe games, maybe amusement, maybe a few drinks with friends. Then on January 2nd, Venus enters your sixth house, and it's going to be there for most of January. So the sixth house is a workplace. It also represents routines, and wherever Venus goes, we get along and we tend to find pleasure. So your focus is going to be on work in January. You know, after all the visits to family and celebration, your mind is at your job. And you could also take some pleasure, you know, from just being a happy worker bee or getting along well with the people you work with. The sixth house is also a house of organization, something that, you know, you're pretty inclined towards. So you also might take some pleasure this month, just kind of starting the new year fresh and getting everything in your life buttoned up and straightened out. Then on January 26th, Venus enters your seventh house. And this is a lovely time for your relationship at the end of the month. Venus brings harmony. And in the seventh house, not only represents your romantic partner, but also any business partners or contractors who you might hire too. So it's a very good time for hiring people to give you advice by the end of the month, getting along well with your partner, or if you're single, going out and meeting somebody new. Then Mercury, the planet of communication and mentation, starts the month in your fifth house. Again, that's the house of children. It's the house of fun and creativity. It's also starting the month retrograde. So for the beginning of the month, while Mercury is retrograded in the fifth, if you do have children, you might have some miscommunications with them. You know, maybe they're fibbing to you a little bit about something and you have to kind of go back over and clear things up. The fifth house is also a dating house. So if you are actively dating now, you might be reviewing some of your dates. You know, maybe somebody who you thought was a good thing, you're kind of rethinking it a little bit. And if you are involved in any creative stuff, you know, if you paint, draw, craft, design, you might be going back over your work, wanting to review it in some way. Then on January 7th, Mercury, while retrograde, conjoins the sun. We call that Lesser Epiphany Day versus Greater Epiphany Day, which is going to happen later. It's Mercury conjoined the sun, but direct. But in either event, an Epiphany Day is a time where you might have some insights and revelations, especially amidst all the confusion of a Mercury retrograde cycle. So since this is happening in your fifth house, you might have some insights into your dating life. You know, maybe you're thinking to yourself, oh, I do want to start dating again. Or maybe you're, you know, again, having some insight into one of your recent dates you've met up with. Or you could have insights and revelations into the matter of children in your life, whether you already have some or whether you're thinking about having more or whether you should have any at all. Then on January 18th, Mercury finally goes direct, which means that we're going to slowly get out of this period of confusion and miscommunication. And Mercury will be going pretty fast by the end of the month. And that's when we really count the whole cycle to be over. And then I have a few things to say about Mars, the planet of action and activity. Mars is finally also going direct this month. So great news, because this Mars retrograde cycle has been going on for a few months now. They tend to be a little more intense than Mercury retrograde because they happen less frequently and for longer when they do. So Mars has been retrograde in your 10th house. And the 10th house is the house of career. It's also the house of your reputation. It's a very public house. It's how other people know you, what you're known for, and it can also represent authority figures. So that's basically anybody who tells you what to do. It could be anybody from a government official, if you're running your own business, or your boss, if you're employed, or even your parents and teachers, if they're authority figures still for you in your life. So with this Mars retrograde cycle in the 10th house, you may have had to redo a lot of things at work, you know, maybe projects you were involved in, and you may have had some run-ins with authority figures. You know, Mars is a planet that can also represent frustration and irritation. And maybe your reputation has taken a little bit of a hit lately, and you've had to go back and set the record straight. People have been gossiping or just kind of getting out the wrong idea about you. But by January 12th, Mars finally goes direct. And we're going to be slowly also coming out of this long, annoying cycle, and we're not going to have to deal with it for another 2 years. So that's some pretty good news to start the year off with, I think.
Oh, yeah, it is. I got a couple of moons to tell you about, beginning on January 6th with the full moon in Cancer, and Mercury's involved with that. Julia spoke about this Mercury retrograde in the 5th house. And this is a house of fun and play and children. And it opposes the moon here with Pallas Athena in your 11th house, this being a house of your social life, friends, networks, communities. And it's a pretty emotional moon, partially just because it's a full moon, but also because it's a moon in a water sign, Cancer. And so emotions are running high. Definitely something to watch out for, because there might be a wave of emotion that moves through your community or that impacts your relationship with your community or your friends or your friendships. So watch out for tantrums there. Also, Chiron squares this moon from its position here in your 8th house. Chiron is doing a 7-year journey to help you to heal stuff in your finances that you share with other people, and also in your, I'm going to call it like your style of transformation. You know, nobody likes to transform. Nobody likes to really go through those big changes of life, because there are moments when we feel really super vulnerable and we'd rather be in control. So Chiron passing along through your 8th house over about a 7-year period, and it's about halfway done with this, has been bringing up a lot of old wounding around times when you felt powerless or not in control or not in command of yourself, and you really wanted to exert control. So you may have behaved in controlling ways. So look for some of that stuff to come to the surface here during this moon, and look for help from friends, tribe, and community, because of Uranus here supporting both the moon and the sun, and helping this dynamic to ease out. And if you want to understand more about these moons, check out the videos that we made about them on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, in the January 2023 news playlist. The next piece of news I want to give you is that the sun is going to change signs. So this is a change in season, as we call it in tropical Western astrology. And so the sun begins the month as usual in the previous sign, which is Capricorn, your 5th house. And it moves on around the 20th, 21st into your 6th house. And wherever the sun goes, we want to shine the light of our high quality attention there so that things can flourish and grow. 6th house being the domain of work, health, service, and personal organization. When the sun enters into here, it's going to spend 30 days, and it's a really good time to pay attention to how things are organized, both at work and at home. Most particularly, perhaps, if you have a desk in your workplace, or a workbench, or a studio, or in whatever form you keep the tools and things that you need to perform your work successfully. This could be a really good time to shine the light of consciousness on those systems that make your work run effectively and allow you to be efficient, because maybe they could use some spiffing up. The sun is really also a planet of leadership, and so this could be a really good time to take more leadership at work and have more visibility. Shortly after the sun moves into this house, the moon joins it right here on the 21st. This new moon in Aquarius we're calling Nurture the Tribe, and it's full of good vibes, good community vibes too. That's because Aquarius is a sign that has to do with community, tribe, friends, networks, and it's a pretty gregarious moon, as you can imagine. It being a new moon, there's a theme of planting seeds for the future during this moon, and beautiful connections over here to Jupiter and Juno bring a very social feel, a very playful and light feel, a lot of festivity embedded in this moon. And then there's also a gorgeous trine over here to Ceres, which could introduce some pretty good food, I think, and especially because Ceres is traveling along through your 2nd house, and you're rethinking your diet in the first place, perhaps, and how it could be, find strike a better balance for your body. You might be the one who brings the food. Maybe there's a dish that you've discovered that you'd really like to cook up and bring to the event. So we're thinking that this moon is a really good time for an event that you could host or that you could go to. And it's likely to be as I said, loaded with good vibes, full of festivity, and a great place for social connection. That's all for today, and we love making these horoscope videos for you, Virgo. And if you love that we do it, please do hit that like button, because it really matters to us when you tell YouTube how you feel. Please let your friends know about our horoscopes too. Have a gorgeous January, and we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.